that comes after the scrolling stops. It's not peace. It's the echo of a promise you broke to yourself again. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll see why that voice calling you lazy is lying. Your so-called laziness isn't a flaw. It's a warning signal. We never discuss what it costs a man to look his own potential in the eye, day after day, and then deliberately look away, to feel that hollow space open up between who you said you'd be and who you just were. That isn't hatred you feel when you catch your reflection. It's distrust. You no longer recognize the man in the glass. You make the vow at night. You feel the conviction. And then dawn arrives, and the man who made that promise has vanished, replaced by the ghost of old habits, reaching for the phone, seeking the numb. A thinker once observed that we'll cling to any narrative, no matter how painful, to avoid a meeting with our own soul. But what if your avoidance of discipline is that very meeting? What if it's not a failure of effort, but a refusal of a calling? That's where we start. What if the person who feels scattered, who procrastinates, who gets easily pulled off course, isn't your true self? What if that's just a character you've been playing for so long you forgot it was a role? If that lands, if it resonates in your chest, then don't just watch. Subscribe. This channel speaks to the man you are when no one is watching. You've been taught that discipline is a mountain you must climb through sheer force. That's the first lie. Discipline isn't something you force. It's someone you become. And you will never build it while you still see yourself as the guy who lacks it. Stay with me, because this understanding changes the entire battlefield of your life. The truth is, most men never meet their potential, not from a lack of desire, but from a fundamental disconnection. They look for change out there, a new plan, a new guru, a new spark. But you don't need something new, you need something true, less distraction, less fleeing, less hiding from the one anchor you've avoided. Ownership, not ownership of tasks, but ownership of your own evolution. The silent pact between the man you are and the man you are summoned to be. This is the soil where discipline grows, not in alarms, but in allegiance. When were you last truly alive? It wasn't in the slump of leisure. It was in the flow of alignment. When you did the thing you said you would, when you surprised yourself, that surge wasn't just accomplishment. It was wholeness. And your psyche craves that above all else. It seeks integration. The more you live divided, one version making plans, another sabotaging them, the louder your internal rebellion becomes. That resistance isn't laziness. It's your mind rejecting the performance. A lack of discipline isn't the root problem. It's the symptom of a man at war with himself. One part of you charts the course. Another part sets the ship adrift. You're not just wasting hours. You're widening the split inside your own soul. And the parts of you that you exile, they don't disappear. They gather in the shadows, not just your darkness, but your disciplined self, your fierce self, your focused and formidable self. The one you locked away out of fear. Fear of what exactly? Isn't it fear of your own capacity? Because if you truly commit, if you actually follow through, then the curtain falls. No more potential, only proof. And that is terrifying. Proof means you can no longer hide. You're either building your legacy or burying it. And the world bears witness. But let's be blunt, you're already burying it. Every time you trade a priority for a distraction, every time you choose the warm fog of procrastination over the clear air of action, you aren't just losing time, you are rehearsing a smaller life. That exhaustion you feel isn't from work, it's from the weight of the self-betrayal. You know, in your bones, this isn't you. I need you to hear this next part not with your ears, but with your spirit. Discipline is not a tool you acquire. Discipline is the immune system of a meaningful life. It's what fights off spiritual infection, the decay of regret, the slow death of a man who has everything except himself. Comment below when a truth hits home. Your words might be the key for someone else still trapped in a chapter you've escaped. Now remember this. There was a version of you, long before the cynicism set in, that believed in this path. Before the distractions, before the excuses, before you lost faith in your own word. That version of you hasn't died. He's been waiting, patiently, for you to return to the forge. We're going back there, but first, we must excavate the root, because now we descend to the origin of your distraction, to where the fracture first appeared, why you flinch from structure, and how ancient psychology reveals the hidden identity undermining your every move. This isn't about tips. This is about truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You didn't become unfocused by chance. You were conditioned, not by one event, but by 1,000 tiny surrenders. Some inflicted by the world, most authored by you. And along the way, you internalized a story, that you're the guy who almost did it, the man of nearly, the heir to potential that never matures. That story is not you, it's armor, forged in fear, polished by disappointment, worn now as a second skin. Until you bring this story to light, it will steer your life, and you will mistake its path for destiny. So let's bring it to light. Let's go back, not to blame, but to understand. Can you recall the first time your initiative was met with a closed door? Maybe you voiced an idea and were dismissed. Maybe you built something small with pride, only to have it treated as trivial. That's where the crack begins, not in laziness, but in wounded belief. Here's the painful twist. The disciplined part of you, the part that craves order, mastery, control, is also the most vulnerable, because it requires faith in your own power. And when that faith is broken young, the disciplined self retreats. It goes underground. This is the repression of the sovereign archetype, the king, the builder, the general of your inner world. It's still present, but twisted by years of silent defeat. Now it doesn't command, it haunts. So every new beginning, every fresh routine, every clean slate, you aren't starting from scratch. You are facing every silent voice that ever whispered, you don't have what it takes. And unless you confront this, you'll keep self-sabotaging. Not because you want to fail, but because a hidden part of you is still convinced you should. The critical insight is this: your external struggles are seldom about hustle. They're about self-concept. You cannot sustainably act in a way that contradicts the person you believe yourself to be. You will always snap back to the identity you cling to, no matter the system. So how do we change that core belief? Not with empty words, but with reunion. Let's go deeper. Picture two figures within. One seeks sovereignty, legacy, order. He is centered, unwavering. His word is law unto himself. The other seeks comfort, anonymity, safety. He avoids edges, fears exposure, chooses the well-trodden path. These two are not at war. They are estranged fragments of a whole man. And as long as you disown one, you will remain fractured. Your task is not to destroy the comfort, it's to understand him. To ask, what are you shielding me from? I promise you, that part isn't trying to destroy your life. He's trying to protect you from pain, from the memory of rejection, the sting of failure, the ache of being unseen. And when you see this discipline transforms, it's no longer a battle. It's a homecoming, a return to the throne room of your own psyche, where your inner sovereign has waited, not to punish, but to govern. When a man meets this inner king, he stops performing for an audience. He begins to organize his life as an expression of an internal order he has finally restored. That's discipline at its highest level, its psychological architecture made visible. And a man without it doesn't just lose hours, he loses his center. This is why undisciplined men feel shame in an empty room. It's not about the action. It's about the man they're afraid is staring back. Unless you reintegrate these lost parts, the builder, the warrior, the guide, you'll keep searching for a motivation that never comes. Here's the truth. You were never meant to run on motivation. You were meant to operate from remembrance, to move through your day as a man who has already decided. This is my nature. This is the order I impose. Yes, it will be difficult. You will falter. But failure ceases to be an identity, because behavior follows identity. And once your identity shifts, your actions will follow. If you're still listening, you feel it. Something is stirring. Not a frantic energy, but a deep, ancient resolve. The part that doesn't shout, it builds quietly. Now, hear this. You cannot reclaim your discipline until you forgive the years you perceive as lost. This isn't about penance. It's about perspective. The boy says, I am broken and must be repaired. The man says, I am whole and must be recalled. So recall, there was never anything missing. You merely forgot. And every time you choose focus over fragmentation, action over apology, you are not becoming someone new. You are returning to the man your past self needed, and your future self will honor. The greatest project of your life isn't achievement. It's integration, becoming complete, uniting the scattered pieces of yourself into one undeniable truth. And discipline is the path to that truth. It's how you signal to your deepest self that you are safe, you are in command, that the sovereign has retaken the helm. So I leave you with one question. What would your life resemble if you ceased living as a series of reactions and began living as a deliberate, daily declaration? Because now we finish the journey. We'll speak of time, of mortality, of the quiet war that rages when you flee from order, and the unshakable strength that is born when you stop waiting to feel ready and start acting as the leader you were born to be. This isn't about productivity, it's about sovereignty. The final transformation awaits. Time doesn't just tick by, it compounds. Every moment you defer your integrity becomes part of the foundation of your future. Not just a missed chance, but an active construction of regret. You don't just lose the hour, you become shaped by the loss. A philosopher once said, "You are what you consistently do, not what you occasionally dream." Let that sit with you. Not because it's cruel, but because it's the clearest mirror. You don't need to wonder who you are. You are demonstrating it daily. Most men never notice the drift. They just wake up a decade later to meet a stranger in the mirror. A man sculpted by delay, by compromise, by comfortable stories that felt like wisdom, but were really fear in disguise. You were not born distracted. You were coached to doubt your own strength. And you've spent years dulling your own edge so it wouldn't scare anyone, especially not you. Because real discipline carries a gravity. It changes the atmosphere. And that unsettles those still asleep. That's why you started to hide. That's why you let the fire bank. You chose company over calling. But what if that solitude is not a sentence, but a sacred passage? You must grasp what most realize. Too late every time you betray your deeper purpose for superficial comfort. You are rehearsing a kind of death, not of the body, but of the spirit. The slow dimming of your inner flame. The silent resignation of a man who once had hunger in his gaze and now only has a libis. We aren't handed meaning in pursuit of comfort. We discover it in confrontation. By staring into the chaos, the doubt, the pain, and choosing to walk forward anyway. Discipline is your compass in that confrontation. It doesn't remove fear. It gives you a direction that is stronger than fear. See, every man is disciplined. The only real question is to what end? Some are disciplined to their doubts, others to their distractions, some to the opinions they never questioned. Few are disciplined to their own becoming. If you wish to be among them, you must accept that discipline is not a season. It's a relationship with time itself. Every time you choose immediate ease over lasting construction, you are telling time you are not valuable. And time, in turn, begins to work against you. You feel behind. You feel stuck. You feel the slide because you dishonored the gift. But when you realign, when you start treating each day with reverence, your experience shifts internally first. You begin to feel carried by rhythm, by intention, by the deep calm that arrives when your life is no longer a series of reactions, but a conscious ritual that is discipline at its peak. Not force, not struggle, ritual. A sacred dialogue between you and the future you are pledged to build. You rise not because you have to, but because you are privileged to meet your commitment again. You train not to punish a weak body, but to honor a capable one. You focus not for output, but to respect the temple of your mind. Everything aligns. Everything echoes a truth you decided on. And one day, the man you envisioned is no longer a dream. He's your reflection. Let me be clear, this doesn't happen in a motivational surge. It is built in the quiet. It is built, paradoxically, through a kind of grief. Yes, grief. To become the man you are called to be, you must let the old man die. The one who broke his word. The one who hid behind soon. The one who felt that hollow ache at night because he knew he chose the path of least resistance. Again, you must bury him. Not with anger, but with respect. He did his best. He kept you safe. He got you here. But his season is over. And when you grieve that version, when you stop fighting him and thank him, you release the energy you've been using to maintain a lie. And with that energy, you build. You build mornings that start with intention, not inertia. You build habits that ground you when motivation is absent. You build a structure that doesn't confine you, but frees you. Because order isn't a cage, it's the foundation. And the more chaotic the world grows, the more essential a centered, structured man becomes. You become that man, and it begins now, not on a future date, not after one last fall. Now, because this breath, this heartbeat, this uncomfortable pull in your chest, that is your summons. You don't need another reason. You don't need to feel ready. You are already worthy of the disciplined life. You just forgot. So let this be the final reminder. Wholeness isn't found by adding more pieces. It's found by embracing all the pieces you already have, even the ones you labeled lazy, weak, or scattered. Your mission isn't to escape them. It's to integrate them, to lead them. And when you do, when your inner kingdom is ordered, you won't just feel powerful, you'll feel peace. Because real discipline has no need to shout. It doesn't seek applause. It simply walks, daily steadily, like a man who has finally remembered his purpose. So return to your vow, not tomorrow, in this very moment, because once you do, you'll never run from discipline again, not out of obligation, but because you'll finally know what it means to be a man whose word to himself is unbreakable. If this resonated, if it connected with the part of you that's ready to build, then do me a favor, like this video. It tells the algorithm this matters. And subscribe to Wake and Win. Your journey back to yourself continues here.